Okay, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at something a little bit different. I think this is really going to help you guys take your English to the next level, and that is thinking in English.
It is a huge step forward, I think, when you are learning a language, right? From being able to kind of speak it and have conversations and watch movies,
Yeah.
enjoy it passively,
Yeah.
to actually thinking in it.
Yeah, and a lot of people will find that they're, pretty comfortable speaking and having conversations and maybe even, watching movies and TV and stuff. But
Right.
there's always that step where you have to translate in your head, and that's really what we're hoping to get past today.
Yeah, you're always kind of going back to your native language and then
Yeah.
translating it into English, and it can really slow you down and, just be a burden.
Yeah, you can't really, be fluent and
Right.
quick and,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel natural, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to be looking at some, concrete ways that you can train your brain.
To think in English and just kind of skip that translation step altogether.
So, let's dive into that.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So the first step might seem really, really simple, but it's super important, and it kind of lays the groundwork
Yeah.
for everything else. And that is to start with labeling.
Labeling. Okay.
Yeah, and
well,
so I don't mean like, sit down with a, notebook and pen and start labeling everything in your house.
Right.
I mean, just in your head.
Yeah.
So as you're going about your day,
Okay.
you look at something and you think of the word for it in
Okay.
English.
Gotcha.
So I think what happens a lot of times is you'll look at something. So, you look at a cup,
Right.
and in your head you think, oh, that's a cup in your native language.
Yeah.
And then you have to translate it
Yeah. Yes.
to cup in English.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is try to skip that native language step and just go straight from the object to
Straight to the English.
an English word. Yeah, I think that's a really important point because it's all about building those connections in your brain, right?
Okay.
Between the thing that you're seeing and the English word for it, rather than having that intermediary step
Yeah.
of your native language.
Yeah. And so, don't worry about making full sentences or anything like that.
Right.
Literally just the word. So, you see a window.
Window? Yeah, exactly.
You hear a car, like just that single word. And as you start to get comfortable with that, then you can start to, add little things to it. Like,
Yeah.
if you see a cup, you can think, oh, it's a, blue cup or a big cup or something like that.
Right, or I need a cup of coffee, or
Yeah, exactly.
so you're slowly building up from that single word to phrases.
Yeah. But really try to keep it natural and,
Yeah.
related to what's going on around you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's step one.
Okay, so we're labeling things around us in English.
Yeah.
What's next?
So now that we're starting to think of individual words in English, the next step is to try to have like your whole inner monologue in English.
Your inner monologue. So basically like the voice in your head,
Yeah.
you're trying to get that to be in English.
Exactly. So like all those little thoughts that you have throughout the day,
Right.
try to think of those in English now.
So that means that, you're not speaking out loud to anyone.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like thinking to yourself.
Right. Like,
In your head.
now don't, walk down the street just like talking to yourself in English.
Right.
Unless you want to, but
Or unless you want to. Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, so you're making breakfast and you think, okay, I'm
Yeah.
pouring the cereal, I'm
Putting the milk in?
putting the milk in.
Getting a spoon?
Yeah, just like all these little things.
Yeah.
Try to have that voice in your head be in English.
I see what you're saying, and I think this might be kind of a tough one for people, right? Because they're thinking, how can I have all these thoughts in English if I don't know all the words in English?
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Right.
And so the key here is to not worry about being perfect.
Gotcha. So don't worry if you don't know the word for something.
Yeah. You don't have to know every single word.
Okay.
If you can't think of the word, just describe it in English.
Okay, so describe it
Yeah.
rather than going back to your native language.
Right. So if you don't know the word for microwave, you can think, oh, the thing that, heats up food or,
Right, or like the box that makes things hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And so that way you're still keeping that flow of thought going in English.
that's a good point. Yes, I think keeping that flow is really important because as soon as you switch back to your native language, you're kind of breaking that.
Yeah, and you're kind of starting over.
Yeah, you're starting over, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are labeling our world in English. We're having our internal monologue in English.
Yeah.
What is next? So the next thing is exposure. Exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah, it's all about surrounding yourself with as much English as possible.
Right. So this is where, the fun stuff comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
this is where you get to, listen to music,
Yeah.
watch TV,
Mm.
read books, whatever you enjoy doing.
Yeah, and all the things that you probably already do,
Right.
just do them in English.
Do them in English,
Yeah.
exactly. And the reason why this is so important is because your brain is like a sponge,
Mm.
right? It's constantly absorbing information. So the more you expose yourself to English, the more your brain is going to pick up on,
Right.
the patterns and the rhythms of the language.
Yeah, like how native speakers, structure their sentences and
Exactly.
uh,
The way they think.
the way they think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this is it can be really passive.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like sitting there studying grammar rules or anything like that just by...
Just by listening. Yeah, just by listening to music or watching a movie or reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is still absorbing all of that information.
Yeah. And over time, you'll start to notice that you're understanding things more easily.
Yeah.
And you're able to express yourself more fluently
Mm-hmm.
without having to think about it so much.
And it will just start to feel more natural.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got labeling, we've got self-talk, we've got immersion.
Mm-hmm.
What is our last step?
The last step, and this is a big one, is practice without fear.
Practice without fear.
Yeah.
And this is really hard for a lot of people because,
It's so scary.
yeah, they're afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, you don't want to sound stupid.
Yeah, and so they just don't speak
Right.
or they don't practice.
And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, because you're never going to get better.
Exactly.
Yeah, unless you practice.
You have to make mistakes in order to learn.
Yeah,
That's how we all learned our first language, right? We made
Right.
tons of mistakes,
right. Yeah,
but we just kept practicing, and eventually we got it.
exactly. And it's the same with English.
Exactly.
You have to allow yourself to make mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and just learn from them. And, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Yeah, and the more you practice, the more those connections in your brain will strengthen,
Yeah.
and it'll become easier and easier to think in English.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've talked about labeling, self-talk, immersion practice without fear. Do
Well,
we have any other little
Yeah, we have a bonus tip,
bonus tip? Okay.
and that is to find a communication partner.
A communication partner.
Yeah, so this could be a language partner, a tutor, a friend,
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who you can speak English with regularly.
Okay.
And the reason why this is so helpful is because it forces you to think on your feet.
Yeah, you don't have time
So,
to translate.
You don't have time to translate. Yeah, you just have to respond in English,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really going to help you to develop that fluency.
And even if you're not, at the level where you can have like full-blown conversations, you can still, text with someone in English or, write emails or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Any kind of back and forth communication is going to be helpful.
Okay, cool. So let's do a quick recap of our steps
Okay.
for thinking in English.
Sounds good.
So, number 1, start with labeling,
Okay.
just those single words.
Okay.
Number 2, try to have your internal monologue.
Your inner voice.
Yeah, that voice in your head be in English.
Gotcha.
Number 3, immerse yourself in the
Okay.
language.
Okay.
Listen to music, watch TV, read books.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, all the fun stuff. And
Yeah.
number 4, practice without fear.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And our bonus tip,
Bonus tip.
find a communication partner.
Find someone to talk to in
Yeah.
English.
And so if you can do all of those things, I think you'll really start to see a difference in your ability to think in English.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
It's a process.
Right.
But if you're consistent and you keep practicing, you will get there.
Yeah. It will become more and more natural over time.
Yeah.
And you won't have to think about it so much.
Mhm.
So now that we've given you all of this information,
Yeah.
I want you to think about this. How can you start implementing these steps into your daily life?
Yeah, what's one small change that you can make?
Yeah. Like what's one little thing you can do today
Today.
to start thinking in English more?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything big, just something small to get you started.
Yeah. And I think if you just make that little effort every day,
Mm-hmm.
it will really add up over time.
Yeah, it definitely will.
Okay. So that is our deep dive on thinking in English.
That's it.
I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something.
I hope so too.
And I hope you'll start thinking in English more and more.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See you later.
Bye.